All right. Hello, everybody. This is Josh, also known as Yashu, and now you're tuning into TLOY Talks, episode 7. Today, we have a very special guest. We have a wrestling fanatic interviewer, and also I have to like read this through for a bit. She's the on-site air talent for SEScoops, Wrestling News Co., WW Talk Pod, and Camp Leapfrog, which is also like a camp as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Samira, or also known as the It's Samira. So, Samira, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good today. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Like I was like checking out like a lot of like stuff going on lately, and I just had to find like some unique guests so far for the show, and seeing like your like name pop up and like just like what you do for like a living and interviewing like these wrestlers and these fanatics and people who also want like run like podcasts like a wrestling girls perspective, like that's actually like very like interesting in that sense too, and like even like loving like the culture in that sense as well.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Some people now more women are into, the business, and I love that because, it's not just like for men.
Yeah, no doubt. Nah, I definitely know what you mean. And I think the wrestling fanatics come in all like shapes and sizes. So you could be like a man, a woman, a child, non-binary, and you could still like love the idea of wrestling and the culture within that sense too. Because like when I see it, it's like more like a family like congregating together, because you don't see that like in other groups, because one like you actually see like an actual like love for like the interest in the sport that you guys like are into like in that sense. So yeah.
Yeah, it's fun like meeting a bunch of new people, like from the fans to the wrestlers to the crew backstage, like anybody. It's just like a big family, and I really love being a part of that family.
No doubt, no doubt. So I want to start it off just within like humble beginnings and also within your interests. So you grew up in Pennsylvania. So which area of Pennsylvania did you like reside at, and tell us more about the place on where you're from?
So I still live in Pennsylvania. I live in like in a small town. I don't like to usually give like the specific location, but I could tell you that I'm near Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is like perfect because it's like an hour and a half from Philly and New York. So you're like in between both of them. So easy way to go. Like growing up, like obviously it's a small town here, but kind of everybody knows everybody, but there's so many people. But I enjoyed like living here. I do have like a lot of family here. My parents, well, my mom came here when she was young because she was like lived in Lebanon, and my dad lived there for a long time and didn't come here till the 80s. So, it's good that I still got to experience, the Lebanese culture while still living in America.
No doubt, no, that's pretty interesting too in that sense too. And I guess being born in Pennsylvania, you might have had like a very like good childhood, like in that sense too. And would you say that it was like very like interesting growing up as a kid in Pennsylvania?
I would say, yeah, I get to experience, obviously being here in America, American culture, but as well as have my own culture of like the Lebanese culture, not trying to fade from that and having that here because they, like most of my family's here, but I also have family back in Lebanon and some in Australia. So it was cool growing up here and, doing what I had got to do, like having opportunities maybe that I would have not had if I ever like lived in Lebanon. So.
Yeah, nah, no doubt. I mean, like Lebanon, like it's also like a very like interesting place too. Like even with Beirut, like even like back then, like before like a lot of stuff has happened, like pre like 9/11, like it was actually sort of like a very like beautiful like place to live, like with the nice like agriculture for a bit too, like the city life in Beirut and like all the other places too. Like the nightlife also seemed like very interesting too in that sense.
I've been lucky, to travel there since like I've only been there 3 times. I want to go every summer if I have the chance to. Last time I was there was 2018, but it's still very beautiful country. It's just sad to see what's going on that's been going on for a very long time now over there, but it's still very beautiful, and it's known as, the Paris of the Middle East because it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it is like interesting too. I mean, aside from like what happened, like it's still like very like beautiful like in that sense too. Just getting into this other question too, like I know like with a lot of people, they'll usually go to class like as a kid and like the teacher would tell them like, students, like what do you want to be like when you grow up in that sense. So like throughout your life, did you have like an initial goal or idea that you wanted to do for a career or a job by any chance?
So actually, I wanted to be completely something completely different than what I'm actually doing now. I really liked like singing as growing up because like you used to watch TV shows all the time and like everybody's like a singer on like the all the like kid shows and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed singing, so I did school choir like my whole time I was in like from elementary, middle school, and high school. So I did want to be a singer for a very long time, but once I got into like college, I knew like that was just a very, very risky business. And I used to like actually do like covers on my YouTube channel, which I don't really do much anymore. Like you'll still see a few, but I don't really like post much anymore, even though some people ask me to. I never know, might do it. But that was my initial like job before I wanted to do all of this.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like, so like even like with singing, like I guess like throughout that childhood, like it was like mainly through like Hannah Montana or like other like shows on Disney or Nickelodeon that had like that whole impact in young people wanting to have like a music career and all that, or
I would say definitely because I grew up with like a lot of that. Like you'd see it on the TV all the time. And plus I really enjoyed singing and I still do. I still do like my former high school choir director, he runs a choir group during the summer that he does, and he invited us like once we graduated high school, some of us should join this group. So I've done it every single year since I've graduated high school and I love it because I really like to go back and then see him because he was cool. He was one of my favorite teachers. And then I get to see some people that I graduated with or people from other years. So it's really nice and I get to sing at the same time. So it's very fun.
yeah, no doubt. Like, I don't know if you guys did like any like recitals like back then. Like, I know like some people they would go like a certain area like in a city or like town to town to do like recitals and all that. Like, I don't know if that was like the same for your choir back then or if it was like kind of different.
So in the normal choir, you just did like your like winter and your spring concert. But if you were a part of I don't know if any other choir groups did this, but there were audition groups, which I was a part of like I think three of them. But my senior year, I was a part of the one where we would travel out to go to like different churches and stuff to sing. So I got to do that, and that's what I also do for his group in the summer as well. So we get to travel to different churches, but sadly we haven't been able to do that due to COVID. So that's what I got to do. And I had gotten actually a solo my senior year that I got to sing at the concert. So that was pretty cool. But I really like it. It's just nice to do. It's a nice hobby. I really like enjoy doing that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Just getting into like the whole like wrestling perspective, like what was like your first introduction to like wrestling by any chance?
So I always mention this because this is like how I started to get into wrestling. My uncle, got me and my brother into wrestling because when my grandfather, when he was alive, he would come home from work on Saturdays and watch wrestling because it would be on Saturdays. So then obviously my uncle got into it. So he got me and my brother into it because I remember, used to play Raw 2 on the Xbox, like oh my god, way back when that was really fun. And then we would go to like when they would come to Allentown for the shows. So like that was kind of like my first experience, and I'd see like John Cena and Randy Orton. I'm like, oh my god, this is like so cool. And I just like fell in love with it ever since then. Like
Yeah,
2006, 2007, something like that.
true. Did you play like the WWE versus like SmackDown 2007 game by any chance? Like the very like popular game like on the Xbox or
Oh, like on the 360?
I think they have it on the original Xbox, maybe on the 360, but it was also popular like on the PS2. It was like I think one guy like standing like just like doing his arms kind of like this in a sense too. If I could like incorporate a photo, like let me just do that right now.
I remember playing so many games, like any, thing that they had come out with, we would really play. But I just remember, like, as a young kid, that we would play Raw 2 all the time on the Xbox, before the 360 ever came out. Like, we would play that game with my uncle.
Yeah, I'm just gonna share my screen for a bit to show you. So Like, have you like seen that like by any chance? Like this type of game?
Oh yeah, that one with
Yeah.
Triple H.
Yeah, like this was like probably like one of the most like popular like games like back then, like in that sense too. So
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I think they had like a lot of like popular like wrestling games for a bit too. Like I never actually like played like wrestling for a bit, but like actually like in the video game, but like I've seen like a lot of stuff on TV. I've seen like clips on YouTube, like Sasha Banks, like in the locker room with another female, like trying to like bash her head in, and you see like the weirdest like betrayals like in WWE, like hey, I cheated on you with your wife, and like they give like the weirdest reactions and all that. So
Yeah, I definitely think the older games were like so much fun. I haven't played really much of any of the newer games. I haven't gotten the chance to play too much of like the Xbox in a while. If I do, it's usually like Grand Theft Auto.
true, true. No, I know what you mean. I used to play Grand Theft Auto like for like a while back too. Like I used to play that a lot like back in like 2011, like when 2010, 2011, like when I first had the game. Like I pretty much played it like all day, like every day. Like when I had the time to like for a sense, but kind of stopped for a bit too. But I think like the craziest part was when like I would play it too much. I noticed like there would be like a crack like on the like inner core of the CD. So I was just like, oh wow.
I
Yeah.
remember because used to love playing video games as a kid because that's what like my uncle and my brother would do. So that's how we would like play. And when the 360, I remember they came out with the Connect, where it was basically kind of like the Wii in a sense, but you had like it was its own camera. And the worst part about that, which I started to notice when I would get games, is something would be wrong with the game discs every single time. And I'm like, why is that? My brother's like, because you're jumping around or something and it is scratching it, so that's why they don't work. I'm like, why? I'm like, I really like this game. Why did that have to happen?
All right. Just to get on to the next question. So like aside from like wrestling, did you get into like any form of like sports at some part of your life?
I'm like watching or actually like involved in.
Uh I'd say a mix of both. Like if you watched like any other sports games or you've played like any sports at school, like or even like you did like hand contact like wrestling as a kid, like have you actually managed to do that? Like
So I've never wrestled before. I usually get this question like if I would ever wrestle. I don't think so. Like I always say never. Like I'm down to try like a few sessions or a session to like see what it would be like, but I don't know if I can take that pain like they do. Like props to them. Um, I never played any sports like as a kid. The only thing I've ever done in school was basically choir and then marching band in high school. So like that was kind of my thing. And as for watching, besides wrestling, obviously as the sport that I watch football too. Go Giants. And I watch NASCAR time to time with my dad because he really likes that. So I watch it with him sometimes.
yeah, I definitely know what you mean. I mean, in high school, the like middle school and high school, the only sports I played were like soccer and volleyball, and that was like maybe like in the ninth grade volleyball and then eighth grade soccer for a bit. As far as like sports, I don't really watch sports, but I do like play like fantasy football for a bit. Like I already have like my team like set up, so like right now I'm on an 0-2 streak right now, but it might be higher like with the next series. So yeah, I don't know if you do like fantasy football by any chance.
No, I don't.
True. I mean, like right now for me, like my team, like I have Mahomes as quarterback, Dalvin Cook, RB. I had Will Lutz for kicker, but he had like an injury for a while back, so I had to like put him back on, and then Gronk for like tight end, and then a whole lot of like other players that I can't really say because they're not really as like popular or popping like as those three. So yeah.
The funny thing was Saquon Barkley, he's actually from around here. He played for one of the schools and he was here last week or 2 weeks ago they retired his number, so he was here for like the whole thing, and I guess it was like really packed. I didn't go because I knew it would be filled with like people and there was going to be no parking spots. So from what I saw like from friends Snapchat stories, like it was packed to the brim. Like I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
But like that's kind of still pretty cool. He got his number retired and he was there. Like that's awesome. He
yeah.
We played him, our school played him when he was, obviously still in high school, and he was really good.
Oh, true. No, I know what you mean. I mean, I'd assume like, being from where you're from, like I thought like you'd be like a strong like Eagles fan or maybe like a Ravens fan for a bit too, but I don't know if it's just like the losing streak that might have happened in Philly by any chance.
No, no. I've always been like a Giants fan because my mom was when growing up, but my dad and my brother are like Eagles fans, even though my brother doesn't like really watch. But yeah, my dad's a big like, really Philly fan usually. So no, I'm not really an Eagles fan. But like when they, if they get to the Super Bowl, that's when I start like cheering for them. I'm like, yeah. And then my brother just looks at me like that. I'm like, you don't even want to, at least I'm, supporting the Philly team, even though the Giants did not make it.
Yeah, I know what you mean too. So what inspired you to get into like the wrestling scene as well, like as becoming like an interviewer by any chance?
So I knew like I loved wrestling and I just didn't know exactly what my part could, be in wrestling since I didn't want to be a wrestler. So it just like happened where the one time this wrestling news website that I used to work for, kind of working for at the moment, just they reported something and I was just like, huh. I was like, something like wasn't right about it, and I had like known something, so I was like, hey, like, I just like reached out to them like, hey, like, something like um is happening else, not that. And they fixed it, and the guy and I were like in talks, and he said like, would you be interested, we would want it on on-site correspondent, like an interviewer. And I was like, and at that point in my life, like I was in like community college, not sure what I was going to do. Like I needed to pick something because at that point I needed to switch to go to a 4 year to finish my, rest of my bachelor's. And I was like, huh. I was like, well, I was really interested in communication. I love to talk. I love meeting new people. I love anything that has to do with communication, but I also liked education because I really liked kids. And I don't know when that happened, and just kind of I felt like it was a sign that I needed to do communication. So then that's when I joined on board with them at the time, and I got to do my first actually interview was with Kelly. Kelly was over the phone. It was like that was crazy because I grew up watching her, and then I was like talking to her. I was like, oh my gosh, that's like insane. And then I did my first round of in-person interviews, and I just knew then from there I was like, oh my god, this is what I really want to do. I have to do this. Like I love it. So it was really cool.
Yeah, no doubt. No, I've seen like some of the interviews like so far on like YouTube and like also like the meet and greets as well. Like you seemed like really passionate about like asking like these certain questions and just like linking up with these people, like knowing what they liked. Even like the pizza topping question for I think two of the people. I think one for Bunny and then one for the other one that was like a while back, like I think she said like something like pineapple or something like that, which was kind of interesting too. She also talked about her car situation and how like she's like very vengeful like in that sense.
Can't exactly remember what interview you're speaking of because it was a while back ago. But yeah, I my interview style is, of course, I want to know them, like get to know them, like the side that most people kind of don't know. Like add in, and I love to add in fun questions because why always try to like go on them, like like let them have fun, like let them be comfortable. And I, of course, like you want to know some stuff, like that's what journalism is, but you don't want to. I would never want to like be mean or like always thinking like, oh, I'm always digging for dirt. Like no, like I like to know the person and their takes on stuff and get to know them and like make it fun, like a conversation, which I usually that means a lot to me when people say they do seem it's like a conversation, not an interview, because that means a lot to me because I never try to make it out like interview. Like I want them to think like they're talking to a friend or something and not make them feel uncomfortable at all. So that's kind of usually like my style of interviewing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know what you mean too. I mean, I'm trying to incorporate that now with other interviews too, like even with podcasts as well too. So like hopefully like try to find a balance between like very authentic and like very like relaxed type of questions. So yeah. just getting on to like wrestlers and stuff like that. Who are your like favorite wrestlers of all time? If you were to create a Mount Rushmore for wrestlers, who would like be there by any chance?
Oh, I feel like I've gotten this question before, and I still don't know how to answer this question because I like so many people come to mind. Randy Orton is definitely one of them. I like grew up watching him. He's one of my favorites of all time for like everything. So he's definitely like on there. Um, I would say Triple H. He's done so much for the business like for many years now, in and outside of it. So definitely him. Um, Definitely, all right, maybe add some women. We'll do a mix of two men, two women. I think AJ Lee, I grew up like watching her when she, came in and then when she exited. I thought she did like so amazing in the women's division. And I wish one day she would come back. um, and another woman I would have to say is oh, oh my god, there's too many come to mind when you think maybe Belina, because she's done so much as well, and I really really like her, and she's her and I are like friends, so like, and she's done so much, and I'm happy to see what she's doing now that she's like getting back into wrestling. So yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. I know what you mean. I think for me, like I'm not like crazy on wrestling, but like just like seeing impact, legacy, well-rounded, like respect. I'd say like maybe for my Mount Rushmore, I'd put The Rock like just on like one side, and then I'd say Undertaker on like another side too. Like I've seen like Undertaker's like moves like in the greatest hits clip. Like I assume like that's like very amazing. Steve Austin like in number three too. I think his comeback and his hustle like was like very like amazing in that sense too. And then I'd say, maybe like the Hulk for a bit too. Like I know some people would put like John Cena like in the other sense too, but like Hulk Hogan, he was like literally like a very big icon like in the 80s, like 90s and 70s. Like he was even like on Rocky Free, I think actually, like when he was actually boxing Stallone like at the ring, and then like Hulk was actually like wrestling him instead of like actually trying to box. And like it was at that time too, like where his mustache or like his signature like mustache beard like wasn't growing like that. It was like kind of like growing in the sides too. So yeah.
That's a good Mount Rushmore of wrestlers. I was trying to incorporate women into as well. Like there's so many people that come to mind, and you want to include everybody, but you got to choose the four.
Yeah. I mean, if I were to put a woman like on there too, I'd say like the most well known that would come to mind would be like Sasha Banks. Like I think Sasha Banks, is like a leading force in the ideal of wrestling, and even like within certain movements. Like just like seeing her energy and just seeing like how she comes through like in like certain matches, like it's like very unique in that sense. So
100%, I
yeah,
agree.
yeah. Since there's like a lot of like forms of wrestling in that sense, like what do you prefer in terms of like watching WWE, WCW, NXT, or ECW?
Oh, so all the extensions of WWE over here. Because then I think then and there's it's great nowadays that we have so much wrestling besides just WWE. We have AEW, we have Impact, we have ROH, we have MLW, we have NWA. There's like so much, and even all the little independent promotions. It's so amazing. But for like an extension of WWE, I don't know. I've been really enjoying NXT over like the years that they've been around, that they've been televising it. I really like that. The early stages to like, nowadays, like I think they just have like so many great people, and I really enjoy watching NXT.
Yeah, no doubt. I've seen like a lot of like ECW for a bit too, especially with New Jack. Like mainly because like New Jack was like on an interview platform with this other interviewer that I actually kind of liked, and I actually saw like the stuff that he used to do like in a lot of his matches back in like the 90s and early 2000s. Like he would like literally like stab people like in the ring, and then like actually like headbutt like random people. Like that's why he got like his scars like all around there. So it was like very interesting in that sense too. I think WWE kind of has like a very like polished tone in terms of their events and such like that. Like they bring in like very like big names like Trump. Like you've seen like the infamous like Trump WWE match with McMahon and all that, where they literally like had to like shave his head and all that. So
It's definitely everybody has like WWE has like changed throughout the years of what they specifically do and stuff like that. So, it's always different. And they went from, all this hardcore and attitude to like trying to go to make it PG and trying to keep up with the times today, how they incorporated Bad Bunny and we almost had Cardi B. So like, we always, they keep up with the times and try to make it, at the same time family friendly.
yeah, I know what you mean. So you spoke about going to like a WrestleMania like event a while back. Tell me more about that and what was like the experience like for you going to that event?
I never thought I would, be going to a WrestleMania. So when I heard that they were coming back to New York, New Jersey, I was like, oh my God, like I have to go. Like I have to get tickets. I gotta go. And the best part was my two cousins from Australia, they're like, oh, we'll come, like we'll go. So it was, so fantastic. So I went up there when they got in. I think they got in the day before me or the same day. It was insane. And I remember emailing WrestleCon and I had just been doing interviews for about like almost a year at that point, and I was like, hopefully they'll like say yeah that I can interview there. So when I got the clearance that I can interview there, I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe it. So I got to interview at WrestleCon, got those interviews, which was like really nice, except my mic not working, which I still don't understand to this day whatever happened, but still that was a really really cool experience that I got to be a part of. And then just being there for like I got to go to Access with my friends. Something like, I always saw pictures of on Twitter, like younger when I wasn't doing, all the interview stuff. So, and you got to see everybody there and what Access looks like. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to go to a Mania one day where I get to see all that. And, and then that was really cool to see like all the, props. I think I passed by the car Braun Strowman broke for who was it for that time for the Saturday Night Live people. I remember it was Michael Che and oh my gosh, I can't remember the other guy's name, but that was cool. We passed by that and you get to do your own entrance like with whoever's music. I just thought that was all cool, like for a fan experience. And then being actually at WrestleMania is like so different. It's just like it was so insane. Like I just knew like when I was walking in, I was like, I need to get my reaction once I see this stadium. Even though some people said, oh, it was like kind of boring, but still like that experiencing it live for the first time and you're walking in and you're just like, oh my God, this is like at WrestleMania. You're at WrestleMania. Like it was insane. And then just being there was so much fun. The only thing that did suck though was everybody was trying to leave and it was about to pour and the buses, I don't know what was going on with like buses and like the subway, the trains, and I don't know if they did not expect all that people to be there. I don't know. I don't think they were prepared, and we got poured on in the rain for a couple of hours. That was the only thing that sucked. Yeah. But everything else was so much fun, and we got to go to the Raw after Mania, which was really cool because then Taker showed up, and I've never seen Taker live, so that was like insane. I remember just like like me and my cousins were like, oh my God, that's the Undertaker. And then like the night before we didn't know who was gonna show up for like Elias, and somebody heard Chicago in the promo, so then we all start freaking out thinking it's CM Punk. Everybody in my section starts like freaking out. They're like, oh, is he gonna come back, blah blah blah. And it was John Cena's Dr. Thugonomics, who I enjoyed back in the day, so we all start freaking out. It's like he came back as that. But oh my gosh, Mania weekend was something different. It was so exciting. Like it's not, I can't describe. It was definitely like, everything you dreamed of like when you go to Mania. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I don't know if they usually televise like the WrestleMania matches. Like I know they usually televise like certain events on TV. I don't know if they did that for the event that you went to.
So they usually televise Mania when they still had the WWE network, which they now moved to Peacock for the NBC. But yeah, they televise it through there. If you have it, you pay, I forget however much a month it is. or I believe they still stream it through pay-per-view on TV, if I'm not wrong. And I don't know if you can get it anywhere else, obviously, if you stream it illegally. That's the only ways I know. But yeah, they do all that. They still stream it through like the TV. You pay, I forget, I don't remember, I think it was used to be like $60 we used to pay for it just to get it on the TV. So thank God, Peacock, or if I think it's WWE Network is still around in like the other countries. So thank God for that. Now you only pay however much a month and you get like so much more content, like for everything. You get like everything that they've ever had, basically.
Yeah, no doubt. I noticed like even like with the WWE versus like other like events that they usually have like concerts or like sporting events. Like usually like with a lot of like WrestleMania events, it's like a heavy turnout from people of all over. Like you're gonna have people like in the farmlands. You're gonna have people like in small towns. You're gonna have people like living in the city. You're gonna have people like coming for other parts of the world that might not have access. So it's is it like very like interesting to be with like a lot of like people from all these areas that kind of like understand like and acknowledge like the same thing that you like have like that same interest too in that sense.
It's definitely like exciting because then you have all the same interests and you're all there for one thing, and it's wrestling, and they're from all over the world. There's people and you're just all there together, and you're all like getting along and you're talking, you're excited for like the day, and you're in the lines like getting ready, and people are chanting like woo or something or whatever it might be, chanting whatever it is, and doing, some people were doing promos and they're decked out in their shirts or their costumes. It's very exciting to see all that. And then plus if have social media, you make friends online with anybody, and it's cool. Then you get to meet up with them and hang out with everybody for all because of your love for wrestling. And I think that's just the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah, no doubt. So getting on to part two of our interview section of our podcast section. So this is more based on like wrestling, like technicalities, events, and all this other type of stuff too. So getting into you and what you're doing. How was it like interviewing and meeting like your favorite wrestlers like in real life in that sense?
So like it's so surreal because then you see them there and you're just like, oh my god, like I can't believe this is happening. I always still have those like little moments, but now I'm like starting to I get used to it after doing this for like 3 years. And but you're just like, oh my gosh, like it's that person. Like I remember watching them on TV or seeing this match like on so and so, like anything, and you're just like, wow. And sometimes I used to get like real nervous because I was just starting out, but nowadays like I'm like, oh, I feel prepared, that I have the right equipment and I know what I'm gonna ask, like, or if I have like a note card with whatever it says. And then it's just like it's nice to be around them and then talk to them right before you do it, and like hi, and like and it's just amazing. And then you get to know them as well, like you become friends with some of them, and they're all just such nice people, and I love being around it.
Yeah, no doubt. Like I think you mentioned that you were friends with like one of the wrestlers that like you met like a while back too. So like even like having like that connection, like would you say it was like a way bigger connection that you'd actually think like you exchange like phone numbers, like text them like almost like every single day and like even like hang out like maybe like on a blue moon in that sense too?
Yeah, it's definitely like you don't think that would ever happen. Like back in years ago, if you would say that would ever happen, you probably would have believed it. And now like you're here and you're just like, you're friends with them, you hang out with them, and sure, they're like, oh, they're somebody, but they're also real people too. So it's nice you get to know the real person, and you're not like of what I'm trying to say, like you get to
Yeah.
know their real person. And I
Yeah.
love that because at the end of the day, their real person is just as good as their on air persona. And it's so nice. And I love like hanging out with whoever it may be because I love talking to them and they're nice. And I just like love being around them because they're funny too. I love like experiencing that with them.
No doubt, no doubt. So just getting on to the interview section. So what were like your favorite like interviews that you've done like so far?
I always say Demon Bunny from WrestleCon was definitely fun because they were Allie and Rosemary. Yeah, Allie and Rosemary. I'm like, oh my god, I'm everywhere today. They were so funny, and we had such a great time at WrestleCon with them. Because obviously my cousins were with me, so that's why I say them. So we had a great time with them. I think my recent one with Melina as well was very fun. That was one of my favorites. Who else? I always say all my interviews are my favorites because I just enjoy talking to so many people. So I feel like I always say every interview is like my favorite interview.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, for me, like as far as like my platform, like for the podcast and for the other interviews like so far, because I really don't like really interview like wrestlers, like I'm more big onto music and like film in that sense. So as far as my favorite interviews in my opinion, like for the podcast, I'd say like I guess actually Will Ryan, who I just had like the other day, like a very like introspective guy like from Toronto who also makes music and does Twitch. As far as the interviews on like the regular like TLOY channel, I'd say Craig Mums Grant, who played Poet in Oz, Kiami DeVille, who played Lavender like in Matilda, like those were like my favorite ones as well too. I could say like a lot of them like I've had great experiences with, but like if I were to say like a favorite, like it would be kind of like very selective because of the experience and the background that they've had on me. So like I'd say like those two were kind of like the favorite, and then the Well Ryan podcast too. But like I like the opinion that you said like all of your like interviews were like your favorite like in that sense too. And have you had like any other ones that you would like to interview like someday?
Oh, I definitely want to interview Randy Orton. I always say that anytime anybody ever asks me, I always say Randy Orton because I grew up watching him and I just love to sit down and have a conversation with him. When he went on Stone Cold's and I watched that, I was like, wow. I was like, that was amazing. Like, I wish like they could have kept going on, even though it went on for like over an hour. Like, I would love to sit down with him and talk. Like, that would be great. He's like my number one. For another person, I'm gonna do like a male and a female. I think a female that I would really love to get the chance to interview would have to be hmm, I don't know. I like trying to think because there's like so many people come to mind and you just like you're never like so sure. You're just like, oh my god, like who could you want out of everybody? Um, I don't know. I think maybe Lita. I think she would be cool to sit down with and like just get her perspective of all the stuff that happened back in the day.
Yeah, no doubt. I think maybe Sasha Banks too, like in that sense too. Like I know that she did like one fire interview like on Hot Ones too. The Rock, like I know that he's not doing wrestling as much nowadays. He's more into the movie scene. Like I think like it would actually be like a very dope interview. Like I've heard like he's actually like a very like nice guy in real life too, and hopefully like having that chance to meet him one day would be like pretty dope in that sense.
I know there's, of course, all the wrestling news websites they talk. There was rumors for a while now that he would be coming to face, his cousin Roman Reigns at that he would make an appearance at Survivor Series. I mean, we'll see. He was really great at wrestling. I'd love to see him, come back and do something, but we all know he's, in the movies, which is fine, like if that's what he wants to do. But I'd love to see him come back and do something with, Roman Reigns. That would be awesome. He's actually, fun fact, I know not a lot of people know this, but he actually went to high school, I think, and grew up around here. So I think that's really cool to say.
Sure. I'd have to like check that out like in that sense too. Just getting on to the idea of wrestling in that sense. Do you feel like the professional like mainstream wrestling like WWE, like ECW, like overshadows like other forms of like technical wrestling like sumo or scholastic?
Um, I don't know. I would say yes and no because I guess like whatever your preferences that you watch, I don't know of like the other technical wrestling. Like, I mean, some people use it within their own wrestling, maybe on the independent circuit, because or wherever like you're allowed to do your own type of moves, you're like what you want to do. So I would say like yes and no.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't, like, because we have, not just, since ECW is not like really, it's not a thing anymore. You have, with mainstream, we have WWE and we have AEW that's on like really on TV, and we have Impact, I believe, on Access, and MLW going with Vice. So like a lot of wrestling is coming up where it's going mainstream nowadays. For other styles, I wouldn't know, just because I don't, look for, maybe that specific type of wrestling. Maybe I'm not sure if any of that's on mainstream. I wouldn't know because I, don't, reach out for it. So
yeah.
I wouldn't really know. But yeah, so I would say maybe like yes and no. It depends like what your preference is in that type of style.
Yeah, because I know like with sumo wrestling, like it's like very like well popular like in Japan, and they have like a technicality of like what you have to do, like where you have to stand aside like in the ring, similar to like scholastic wrestling, kind of like the high school wrestling you see like with people wearing like like I think a leotard or like some sort of like uniform to wear. Like even like with sumo you have to wear like I think that diaper thing. I don't even know like what it is, but like they kind of have like rules like you can't like go like further away. You have to push your opponent like away, or like at least do like a technical move to like claim victory or subdue him, like in that sense too. So like sometimes too with like professional like mainstream wrestling, it's like no rules like in that sense too. You're just gonna do like a certain move, and then if you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. It's how good or how spectacle like the move is in that sense. So
It's usually, whatever, maybe whatever backstage is going on or whatever the wrestlers plan out. It depends, I think, with every different promotion specifically, and if the wrestlers get a say like of how to plan out the move sets. This is what we're going to do, and this is what goes with the storyline that we're going for, like that type of thing.
yeah, no doubt. I never actually put this question out because I know like with a lot of people who are into like actual like mainstream wrestling, like that's the most hated like question of all time, and you know what I mean, right?
I have a
But
feeling I know what this question is.
do you feel that professional mainstream wrestling is fake, or is it actually like real, like in that sense?
So what people, I feel like, because it was such a thing where you grew up and you find out, oh, people tell you wrestling is fake. It's technically not. They are, obviously taking these hits, these bumps, like of course, like some of it, they don't really hit sometimes, but like they actually are taking these bumps on the mat. They're training to do all that stuff. The only thing that really is fake is like maybe the storyline, but sometimes they put like storylines, if you have something like beef with somebody, or like they might put it as a real storyline in the thing, just to get views or something, to cause more stuff. But that's the only thing that's fake. But they do take the bumps, and they do work hard, and that's the only thing that I hate hearing. Like they're like, oh, it's all fake, they don't actually hit each other. Okay, yes, sometimes they don't, but they mostly do. Like they actually do take that, and that's how people get injured, that's how people get hurt. If they somebody, there's an accident, or like it just happens. So it's actually pretty real.
Yeah, nah, I know what you mean. I feel like a lot of people have like mentioned this like a while back too. Like wrestling is like sort of real, like in that perspective too. Like just like with the amount of damage like people take, or even like the technicality of the skill. Like some people will assume that wrestling is fake because of the storyline, or because of the like antics you see like on TV versus like in other aspects too. So some people might not realize how some people are truly affected, and even like it can affect like maybe like one's like mental health if someone takes like a certain amount of like blows to the head, or like a certain amount of like pain towards the body, like in that sense. So I definitely agree. So with this one thing that happened like in the summertime, so like Rolling Loud, they worked with the WWE to have like their match in Miami, where Bianca Belair and Carmella were facing each other, as well as Angelo Dawkins versus like Chad Gable. So what did you think about Rolling Loud incorporating those matches like in the Miami Music Festival? Do you feel that it was like a good execution by both parties, or were there like many like flaws to it in that sense?
I think it was great. When it was first announced, I was really hyped up because WWE's always partnered with people in the past, especially MTV back in the day. And like obviously now they have like a good partnership with NBC. And they're partnering with, this isn't like, the first time. They've always partnered with, stuff that's like happening and trending and stuff to help them, both, parties get like popular or like get new people involved. So it was kind of cool. The only thing that I would have probably said that they could have done was, people, I don't know how much people like watch wrestling nowadays, especially like Rolling Loud people. Like, I think the smartest thing they could have done was bring people that like they could have had. I think Rey Mysterio was on SmackDown at the time, if I'm not wrong. If they're on SmackDown, I think so. They could have brought him there. That's something like people that even if they don't watch wrestling anymore, they would have known who that was, and that would have been insane. They were like, "Oh my god, that's Rey Mysterio!" Like at least they would like bring people back in the day that they would know. So I think that was the only thing, but I don't know. I thought it was so cool seeing Bianca Belair and Megan Thee Stallion together. I know I was like hyped up for that.
Yeah, I heard like on Twitter, like when I was like reading it like on Twitter like a while back, like I thought it was like interesting to like maybe bring some unique wrestlers or like have it like at a certain area, because usually what I think how they would do it is that like they would place it somewhere where they would have like like roller coasters or like Ferris wheel like around. Like I thought like that would have been interesting, seeing that match from that one side where people could watch, but they actually had it on the main stage where a lot of people, like especially people who were excited for like artists like Playboy Cardi or like the Migos or Future, they wanted to see those artists, and like a lot of them like they're drunk, they're maybe like a little bit like high in that sense too, like they've spent like countless hours like watching other hours like other artists and all that. Like I don't know if they would have that capacity to like watch like a WWE match like in that like idea. Like even like in Twitter people were like debackling about it, like was this like really like necessary, or do you think it was like a bad move? Like that's how like people would think it. So
I thought it was pretty cool. I know I was hyped. I don't know how like of a non wrestling fans perspective, I don't know how they would feel about that, but I thought I would think that was cool, especially if they did like some like crazy moves and brought people that from back in the day that they would know, and hopefully that would gain more traction towards them. Like they'll be like, okay, I want to check this out, like I want to start watching to see what's this newer type about.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Just to get on like more on this, in your opinion, what were like some of the iconic like moments in like WWE like wrestling that really set the bar like high for you in that sense?
Um, I mean, there's like so many, moments throughout the years that I could think of. Like, of course, like when I started watching wrestling, Randy Orton and John Cena's feud, they've had, their feud is one of the most iconic feuds I grew up with, and and how it went on for the years. What else was good? There's just so many. I think Nexus was pretty cool. Their tag team when they came in, and when NXT was all established, that was really cool. The draft when oh my god, when Shane McMahon came back, that was insane back in 2016, and then the draft between him and Stephanie, that was pretty cool. I really liked that era of SmackDown because that was just so much fun. It was very interesting. I loved watching SmackDown then. What else? There's like so many moments I could think of. There's just some like everything from like the women's evolution, like there's so many that I've like loved to watch and like love to go rewatch it on Peacock. Like I don't know, I just love seeing new stuff, and especially like in other companies as well besides WWE, because like especially wrestling right now in 2021, everybody's been like killing the game in different promotions, and I'm just like so happy for everybody because I love watching it all.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I had to do like some research too, like coming from a non like wrestling like fanatic in that sense too. I was like watching like the Vince McMahon versus Donald Trump like moment. Like sometimes too, like I kind of have like issues like pronouncing like Mick Mahone, so that's his actual name. Sometimes like it
Big fan.
kind of yeah, the him versus like Trump, like I thought that was like kind of crazy too, because that also happened, and it was also highlighted during Trump's like presidency and like before re-election, like before like the election actually happened, where he became like the president of the United States. Like they talked about that. I think even like The Rock versus John Cena too. Like that was like one iconic match that everyone wanted to see too. The great Khalil's like walk through like on stage, like where like they played like a very like dark tone of music and like him like in all black, like that was kind of crazy too. And then I think when the Undertaker actually got like slapped too, like I saw this clip, like this one I think Stevens like tried to slap Undertaker, and then like Undertaker like literally just like killed him and like his entire career like in that sense too. And then I'd say Steve, like Stone Cold Steve Austin's matches like a while back too. Like I thought like they were like also like dope too. So yeah. So like what are your thoughts like on those like matches like for a bit, like the ones that I like kind of like mentioned for a bit?
I remember The Rock and John Cena like going on like when I was a kid. I remember I think it was actually when they were in New York and Jersey that time. I forget if it was the first or the second one. I can't remember at the moment, but I remember that was really cool to watch. They did that for those two WrestleManias. And I've been excited John Cena actually had been back for, just a bit. I wish, he could stay because I would love to see him mixing it up with some of the new guys as well. So that would have been cool if he stayed by. I understand, he's transitioned over to, movies as well, besides The Rock. Um, it's just like, it's not like it's sad, all those ones that you watch growing up are like, they don't really wrestle much anymore. They retired from wrestling. So, that's like the Undertaker, like he wrestled AJ Styles at um WrestleMania last year. So, and it was that was it, if I'm assuming. You never know when he was gonna retire. We've heard him, retire, I think, many times, but I think he showed like he's getting, up in age. He probably shouldn't wrestle anymore, but I would still love to see him wrestle. But yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So just like with the WWE too, a lot of them were getting into like music too. And John Cena, like he wasn't like very shy like from his rapping, like he always wanted to be a rapper in some aspect in his life too. So, and you see it with a lot of artists like Enzo, like Amar, Leo Rush, and like Ron Killings as well. So what are your thoughts on like these current and like legendary like WWE wrestlers like Enzo, Leo, John Cena when he dropped the You Can't See Me album, and like Ron Killings like making a name for themselves in music?
I think that's cool if they have, other passions besides wrestling. I feel like if they're allowed to do it, then why not? They've been killing the game. I don't think, John Cena does much of it anymore. I think the last thing I can remember, I don't know if he's done anything recent, but I remember him teaming up with Wiz Khalifa for WWE 2K15. I really enjoyed his songs with him there. Um, if that's how they feel and they want to do it, they should definitely do it. I mean, look at Impact wrestler Chris Bay, like he's killing it. He has, music always coming out and he's wrestling at the same time. Like I think that's amazing if they want to do that.
Yeah, no doubt. Like what I've noticed is that like a lot of people like give them flack, like a lot of people would say, oh, like their music's like very trash, or it's why are they making music when they're making money off like wrestling and all that, it's like BS like rhymes, BS like lyrics and all that. But like you have to understand like in that sense too that, it's their own story, their own perspective on like how they make music. So if they want to talk about like, hey, we've made like millions off of like wrestling, or made like millions off this like type of music too, like we're gonna do that. Like I remembered when people heard like John Cena was like making like an album, like people really didn't take him seriously, because like you as a wrestler with these BS rhymes and these BS lyrics, you're not like like top 10 rapper, you're not like one of the greats in that sense too. But it's his story, his lyrics, and his passion in that sense too. And like as he said too, if they want to do it, like let them do it in that sense. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely like we have Chris Jericho in AEW. He's been a part of, he has his band, Fozzy, that's been around for a while. And his theme song is, one of his songs. And people will be singing it. Like they sing it as he walks through the ring because, they know the words. Everybody sings it. And that's very iconic. I think that's so, like, props to them. They make their, these wrestlers still do hobbies on the side, like, singing and rapping and good for them. They should be able to do so because it's, people will want to listen to that.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't know if you like had a copy of like that John Cena album by any chance, or like I don't know if you like had it like on like Apple Music or Spotify or anything like that.
No, I've never actually owned a copy of it before. I've like seen it, before. I've heard some songs from it.
Oh, true. Yeah, I mean, I've heard like one song from it. Like, it was like pretty alright. I'd have to like check out like the rest of the album like later on too, just to see like how like good the project is too. But yeah, I mean, like even like talking about like the WWE and like that whole brand of like wrestling, seeing it has a strong impact on the film, like television and like music industry. Do you feel like even like with that impact, it has influenced like non like wrestling brands and like cultures, like as you mentioned?
Definitely. I mean, when they had Total Divas on the E Network, they had Total Divas and Total Bellas. That brought in like a new wave of wrestling fans that were women, like these girls, and made them want to watch wrestling because they see these girls then on this reality show once is and want to see them in like the ring and what they actually like do and get them into wrestling. So that brought in like a new wave of also wrestling fans. And Bianca Belair, I remember she went for the tryout back in what year was it? I remember like this interview and how she, how she came to be and what she did. And I think that's like, amazing for her. Like she had seen it. So I think it's definitely brought a bunch of, new fans. I mean, we saw what AEW Grand Slam last night. Little Uzi Vert was there, and I thought that was insane. Like I remember like checking my phone. I didn't get to, and I just remember like seeing they're like, oh, Little Uzi Vert is here. I'm like, oh my god, they put him on there. That's so insane. Like I wish I could have been there because I believe it was in, I forget where it was in New York, and I was like, oh my god, like I wish I was there for that because so much was going on with that.
No, no. I mean, like a lot of rappers nowadays too. They love like the WWE and like wrestling in that aspect too. So, like you'll hear like a Stone Cold, like Steve Austin, like bar, like right there, a Jeff Hardy, like bar, like right there, like a Rock bar, like right there. Heck, even like a John Cena bar right there. Like a lot of rappers like love like wrestling, and that I deal with it. I could even say it with like Griselda, like with West Side Gun, Conway, Sylvan LeCue, like he's a big like wrestling fan too. I'd say like even like all these other rappers too, like Uzi, Wiz. I wouldn't like LeBron James isn't a rapper, but like you saw like that iconic like cell phone pic he took like on like one of the like WrestleMania matches too. Like that was like very iconic like in that sense. So
And
yeah.
Bad Bunny, I mean, Bad Bunny was a big fan, and then he made a song about Booker T, and they actually did it live at Royal Rumble, and then he got to train and he wrestled a match at WrestleMania, and he did a very fantastic job. Like I hope he definitely comes around again and wrestles because he's really good, and just it just shows like then how dedicated he is because sometimes like they say oh these like the celebrities come in and they don't really do much like because he obviously they don't know how to wrestle, but then he came and he took the time to wrestle and they put on such a great match. I was very impressed.
Yeah, no doubt. I definitely know what you mean. Especially, it's crazy with this year. There has been like a lot of deaths, either due to COVID or either like due to other stuff like heart attacks or suicide or all this other stuff going on. So, and a lot of people had died. Like New Jack passed away from a heart attack. Daphne, who passed away due to suicide. Paul Orndorff, and then also like the Patriots. So, how did you react when like wrestlers like that like passed away this year? Do you feel like they have like any impact for you as other wrestlers like Eddie Guerrero or like Chris like Benoit?
It was definitely sad to hear about like these deaths because then you like you know who they are, and like you've either watched their matches or you grew up watching their matches or and know who they are, and like it's very sad. And especially like the recent passing of Daphne, and I just remember being on Twitter and people were like talking, they're like, somebody like, you know, if anybody knows where she lives or something, like call, like, and because she was on Instagram live. And I remember like freaking out. I'm like, oh my god. And I remember just like being in my room, and I was on the phone with one of my friends actually, Ella J of a Wrestling Gal podcast, and I remember like, oh my god, like what's going on? I hope. And I was telling her like, oh my god, I'm praying, I hope like somebody gets to her in time, like, you know. And we were all freaking out. And her, oh my god, it was just, it was very sad to see, like very sad to see like these deaths like that are going on. Like, you don't want to hear, you know, any of that, but it's very sad. And then especially with, you know, um oh my gosh, Luke Harper, but what everybody knew him in AEW as Brody Lee. That was definitely sad to read that around. I think that was like a few days, a day or two after Christmas. That was sad to hear about too, because we watched him with the Wyatt family, and then you watched him on, then when he came to AEW, and then that was very sad to see that he was dealing with stuff that nobody knew about, and he passed, and it was very sad.
Yeah, nah, I definitely know what you mean too. And I feel like this is important for everyone, like in that sense too. Like I want to like give this like sort of message, like if you're like going through something, or if you're dealing with like a lot of stuff, like let's say if you're dealing with like mental health issues or having thoughts of suicide, you know, like I think before it happens, you know, talk to that person and, you know, be comforting like as you can to like understand like where they're going through, like how they're dealing with that situation, like let them vent, you know, with how they're dealing with, like let them know that they're not alone, like in that sense too, that, you know, people do like really like care for them, and that there's people who love you, like not like in a mother like daughter or father son type way, but like as like friends, or like people who love like the culture too, like they love them in that sense too. And like the feeling of like even like seeing them in this state of mind, like it'll hurt them in that sense too. So like just being caring in that sense too, and like acknowledging like how they feel, like even like sending a good morning text or like a message on Instagram that, you know, you inspired them or you helped them like be like a better person like throughout the day, like that would like give like that perspective of like not like harming oneself, like in that sense too. And like even like providing whatever like therapy needed, or like some mental health rest too, like, you know, taking a break or taking a rest, that's also important too. And as far as like even people who are going through health issues to take care of your like health in that sense too, whether it would be like exercising or eating good, or just even getting like a good night's sleep, like I do feel that's like very like important in that sense. Yeah. So I'm just getting on to part 3 right now, which is like other topics not like related to wrestling. I couldn't find with any other ones, so this is just kind of like current topics that I kind of had like for a bit too. So around the world nowadays too, like since we're living in a pandemic, like nothing has really changed. There's vaccine passports wherever you're residing at. So whether you're in the US, in the USA, or here in Canada, you know, you might have to get send proof of like having a double vaccination, or at least proof of a negative test. So, and even like it's incorporating for restaurants, concerts, sports games, and everything like that too. So in your opinion, vaccine passports, yay or nay?
I'm definitely for, you know, vaccinations. It's gonna help you and the people around you. Um, I don't get why people don't get it, and you're just helping your, you know, self and the people around you, and you're not gonna end up so badly with something. And I lost a family member. Somebody, a cousin of mine died of COVID, which, you know, this was before the vaccines came out. And that's like sad to see how it affects people in different ways, and how you could be hospitalized because of it. And I just not understanding why people won't get this. This is like how you get your flu shot, how you get other shots. This is going to help eliminate the problem and not, you know, it cause a bigger deal. So I'm for it. I know I'm vaccinated. I'm as soon as it was available, like in my state that I was eligible to get it, I got it. And you know, I'm happy, and I wear, you know, I still, even though, you know, I have a vaccination, I still wear my mask when, you know, needed to. If I'm going to the store, I still gonna wear my mask, whatever, you know, makes me comfortable and keeps everybody else comfortable. And as everybody saw, I went to St. Louis for NWA Empower. As soon as I came back, I made sure I got like a COVID test just in case. And thank God I came out negative. But I don't know. I just don't get why people don't want to get the vaccine. I mean, that's up to them, but they really should get the vaccine. It's very important so that we finish this and can go back to a normal.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. Sorry for your loss, by the way, with your cousin. I know that it definitely like affects people too. Like with passports, like, it is like very, I would say it's important, like if you want to do certain things, like if you want to go to a concert or if you want to eat like at a restaurant, like, indoors or outdoors, or even like going to a movie theater, or like, doing anything that's considered privilege in that sense too, because technically the stuff that people want to do, that people want to get back to, they're sort of privileges in that sense too. It's not like it's like a necessary need, like in that sense too. Like you don't need that to live, or you don't need that to enjoy life. Some people do it like because they like it, like in their own way. Like I do feel even like having those like passports, it is like important. It's even important to get like vaccinated too, because even in that sense you're protecting like other people, like as well, like within the way, like the vulnerable, like with the elderly, like with the children, like still like a lot of kids like under I think 17 or 12 still don't have like a proper like vaccine like right now, not even like with Pfizer or Moderna. So looking at them, like that's like very important too, to protect them. Also, like as you said too, like wear masks, it's like also like very important too, like in that sense too. So, and I do feel like we should get back to normal soon if we follow with these steps. But with these anti-vaxxers and a lot of people protesting on why you shouldn't take the vaccine, and about COVID being a pandemic, like it's kind of ridiculous in that sense. Yeah. So just in that sense too, do you feel that society has gone back to normal since people are now vaccinated and places are starting to open up, or is it still like a little bit different, like in where you're at right now?
Um, I feel like it is back to normal a little bit. Like obviously some places they don't really require you in the state of Pennsylvania. I believe it's you don't have to wear a mask. In places some people they leave, of course businesses leave signs on the door like if you're not vaccinated, we do like recommend you to wear a mask. I still wear mine everywhere. You don't know who's vaccinated and who's not as well, and you just don't want to. I just don't want to bring something to me or my family, even though like thank God we're all vaccinated, but still like I still wouldn't want to bring something like that
Yeah.
home, or something like that. So it's like we're kind of back to normal here, I would say, but as well as not in this sense.
Yeah, no, exactly. I know what you mean too. I mean, especially with a lot of people too, like you could still be fully vaccinated or at least partially vaccinated, and then you could still get COVID as well, like depending on the risk. So in some cases, like you'll be back to normal, but you'll have like complications like from COVID, whether it affects your kidneys, your heart, your lungs, that sense too, or it might be like asymptomatic too, like you might not notice that you have COVID. Or like in that rare sense that people are assuming, some people can like potentially die from COVID, even like in that sense being fully vaxxed or partially vaxxed too. So you don't know like what happens. I do feel like it's going back to normal, but I feel like if we follow within progression and follow within the steps that should be needed to be taken, with limited amounts of people like in certain places, or you know just like even with the proof of a negative test or proof of like a double vax or at least one vax too, like it could totally be better soon. Like for me right now in Toronto, like it's not really normal. Like I'd say it's like maybe 60% normal right now. The only way it could be like 40%, like that extra 40% can go back to normal, is if the people like can go back to their offices like in the financial district. I think like that's one ideal way that you could assume it in that sense. So yeah. Just with these like last couple questions too. We have Certified Lover Boy like by Drake that just dropped, a while back versus like Donda. Like a lot of like hype going on around that. Kanye had like free shows, like two in Atlanta, one back home in Chicago, and then Drake sent like a lot of subliminals like toward Kanye like on those songs too. So how do you feel about that situation at that moment too? And what are you like standing with right now?
Oh, I definitely stand with Drake. Anybody that knows me, I'm a big Drake fan. So of course, like I'm for Drake. I have not listened to Donda yet because I was like, oh, I gotta listen to Drake first when Drake comes out. So I have not listened to Donda yet. I'm excited because I heard it was good. Um, I don't actually really know too much of what the beef is really about between them. I think I saw a video about it on TikTok, but I just kind of like forget at the moment what it's
Yeah.
about. But I'm for my boy Drake. Like he's he's like the best. I love his like songs. This album was definitely different than past albums. I would have to say though, he has good songs on there. Just he had like a different vibe than previous albums.
Yeah, no doubt. Like, how would you rank it? And like, would you say that it was like better than like Take Care, or if you're reading this, it's too late,
Oh,
or
oh my god, that no, I feel like nothing is better than Take Care because Take Care was one of the best. Oh, I would say at a scale out of 10, I think I'd give this album like a 7 out of 10.
true? Yeah, I have yet to like listen to it so far. I mean, I actually would have thought Laugh Now Cry Later would have been like on that like project, but hey, it's Drake, you don't know what to expect too. So, but like, hey, Way Too Sexy was a better song too. And then I think like his stuff with like Thames and like Giveon and Dirk and Ty Dolla Sign, like I think they'll make up for it too, as well as like Girls Need Girls, like by Lil Baby too, like with Drake, and then also the Fair Trade with Travis. Like I'd have to like check that out too. So um just to end it off, do you have like any like final remarks that you would like to say?
Um, just to check out, my stuff and where I'll be upcoming at shows pretty soon. I know 2021, the rest of my dates are getting pretty filled up. So I'm like really excited to go out and do a lot of things within wrestling. So yeah, just check me out.
True, true. And where can people find you like on social media or anywhere else?
So on social media, my YouTube is literally youtube.com/it's Samira. And on my social media, usually like Twitter and Instagram and TikTok is whatever twitter.com/the it's Samira, and that goes for Instagram and TikTok as well. But if you just want to get everything together, and usually it's simple that I have Linktree, so you would look up link then tr.ee/the it's Samira. That's where you could literally find me on everything.
No doubt, no doubt. Samira, thank you for coming by, and it was a pleasure speaking with you today. And for everyone else watching on TLOY Talks, thank you for tuning in. This is episode 7 of TLOY Talks with Josh, also known as Yashu, and we're signing off now.